Today we're going to talk about launch timelines and how much time you should be planning before you go to launch something so that you can have a realistic idea of what you need to plan in advance so that you don't feel like you're rushing prior to a launch. So if you want to launch a product, if you have already launched a product and you have felt like you were rushing and just didn't have enough time for things, this is definitely the episode for you. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. As you all know, I am a big fan of Jane app, the all-in-one practice management software that offers a fully integrated payment solution called Jane Payments. Although the world of payment processing can be complex, Jane Payments was built to help make things as simple as possible to help you get paid, and it's so easy to get started, and it is the best, let me tell you. It makes things so easy. Here's how you can get started today. If you head to jane.app/payments, you can book a one-on-one demo with a member of Jane's support team. This can give you a better sense of how Jane Payments can integrate with your practice by seeing some popular features just in action in a live call. If you know that you're ready to get started, you can sign up for Jane and you can use the code LEX1MO, so LEX1MO, for a 1-month grace period while you settle in, which is a total game changer, let me tell you, because you can set everything up while you're starting to use it, especially if you're switching from a different EMR. Once you're in your new Jane account, you can flip the switch on for Jane Payments at any time, and ideally, as soon as you get started, because then you can start to take advantage of Jane's time and money saving features. And it only takes a few minutes and you can start processing online payments right away. No waiting period. What? This is amazing. Jane's promise to you is transparent rates and unlimited support from a team that cares. And I can attest to that because Jane's support is incredible. So check Jane out. I promise you will not be disappointed. So here's the deal. I'm not going to go through the coaching of a launch in this and tell you launch timelines and all of that jazz. What I'm going to focus on here is the back-end stuff that you have to have in order for your launch, just so that you can understand the tech side of it. Now, I'm going to talk about things as it relates to everything except for if you're running ads, because I don't do ads. So I am not someone who will give you advice on ads, if you will. So if you're wondering what this process would look like if you were doing ads, just understand that make sure you're putting together the pieces that I'm giving you and then add more time, because doing stuff for ads is just going to add more time to this. So if I recommend something, then just understand it's going to be more. So what we're going to dive into is essentially what needs to happen on the back end for a launch to happen and the things that you need to have in place for your launch so that essentially you can backtrack some time and then start planning your launch well before you're going to need things to be ready. So I actually was talking to a client and we came up, or I said to her, I was like, it's going to be great that you're starting this so early because 3 weeks before your launch, you're going to be able to refine instead of rush. And I wrote it down because I really do like that phrase, refining things instead of rushing things. There's a very different energy that you have when you're just refining things that you've already created versus when you're rushing to create them from scratch. Now, this may feel very obvious, but if you have never had to rush things for a launch and then go into a launch, it's exhausting. So launches themselves are already difficult just because it takes a lot of energy to launch something. But prior to a launch, if you're now adding on, you're rushing because you need to get things together for a launch, it's even more exhausting. So with that being said, for me, I always will say now that it's better to refine instead of rush. So start things early. And I'm just going to give you the lowdown of all the things that have to be in place before you launch something so that you can then say in your mind, whether I do it or whether someone else does it, this is the amount of time that we need in order to make it happen. And bearing in mind that you don't necessarily know the schedule of a tech person or your tech person's availability and ability to get these things done in a certain amount of time. So obviously making sure you're checking with the people who you work with so that they have the time in their schedule as well. So I get contacted with a lot of last minute launches, like I'm launching something in 4 weeks or I'm launching something in 2 weeks. Can you help me? And I would love to say yes, but it's also always the matter of this person has nothing done yet, or they have very minimal things done yet, and it's not their fault ever. And that's the thing. I'm like, this is not your fault. You just you didn't know. And until you go through a launch feeling like that, it kind of feels like, okay, like it's fine. Like I'll make it work. But when you're able to actually plan for it, energetically, you show up much different for the actual launch itself because you're not rushing. You're just refining prior to launching. So 20, I believe, episode 20, which is all about where you should host your sales page. And in that episode, I talk about the sales page being on your website. So if you already have a website, you know the answer to the hosting of the sales page. But for the cart, obviously that could change based on what platform you have, but you need to know where people are going to purchase the thing. And then you also need to know what is going to be sending them a follow-up email, right, for purchasing, and what will be sending out emails throughout the program, or even what's going to be sending out emails during sales week. So you have to know the hosting of all the things. So your cart, your emails, your website and sales page. And if we really want to get specific, where are you hosting the thing that you are doing? So is it a webinar? Is it a Zoom call? Is it a coaching session? Where is that being hosted? The second thing you need to know is the product itself. So all of the details within the product, right? So this is everything possible about that thing. So what is the price of it? What prices are you offering to the wait list? What prices are you offering to normal enrollment? How long will that enrollment be open for each thing? Will you be offering any sort of bonuses, freebies, discounts? How are you going to get a hold of those bonuses, freebies, discounts? Are you talking with people and working with others to deliver those bonuses? Essentially the product details that are going to be needed as you're marketing during the launch. So all of that stuff should be set up well before you're even writing your emails, right? Because if you're going to be talking about that stuff needs to be done. So all the product details and things within that product. Now, let's take a break and say, do I need to have the product finished? Well, it depends on what product you're offering. So is it a pre-recorded class? Then yes, it should be done if it's a one class, one module thing. If it's a multi-module thing and you're releasing it all at once, yes, it needs to be done. If it's a module-based thing that is being released week after week, no, it doesn't really have to be done. You can finish it as it's going on. If it's a webinar, does it have to be done? No, because you're going to host a live webinar. So big thing here is that, and you can find a bunch of episodes on Shantae Cofield, the Movement Maestro's podcast about this as well, is you shouldn't be creating a people for your product. You should be creating a product for your people. So if people have not told you they want this thing, you shouldn't have made it. So for instance, and I want to give you a very, very explicit example for this. When I first launched SEO School was live. So I did not pre-record anything for SEO School or pre-make anything for SEO School because I didn't know how it would do. I didn't know if people wanted to learn this. I didn't know. People had told me they did, but when I created the program, I didn't know if they would actually purchase the thing and how it would go. So I created that as I went on because it was live calls. Now, I pre-recorded SEO School now, so I re-recorded all the modules and I have it in a course structure. And I pre-recorded it because I know people are buying it, so I did it before I launch. If it's a new program, you may not want to create the whole thing right away because if no one buys, then you didn't waste your time. So really, there's a lot of caveats with that. So what I would recommend is that you really dive into understanding what are you creating? Are you creating a product for your people? Or are you trying to create a people for your product and creating something that people don't actually want? So once again, I'm not going into the coaching of that stuff, just throwing it out there. You also need to have all the sales page details, and you need to build out a sales page. So you have to know the sales page details is the price, what it is, who it's for, who it's not for, how it works, the transformation people will get. You have to know it about you. You have to have your FAQs there. You have to have the cart ready to go. So building out that sales page, developing that sales page copy, having the photos for that sales page, all of that is super, super important and has to be done before you're able to launch the thing. So building that out is obviously going to be on whatever platform we talked about, right? So that hosting site, where is it hosted? And if you're having someone else do it, are they going to be able to have time to build out that sales page? So the design of it, right? So I think most people know this, but when you're developing copy, that's honestly the most time-consuming thing. So developing copy for the page and actually having words to put on that page, that takes a long time. So I actually really, really don't like when people push off their copy development, only because writing under pressure is never fun and people never enjoy it. So in my opinion, I would much rather people push off the design and hire someone to do the design part, or start really early to develop the copy and then rush on the design. Just because when you're developing copy, it's really tough to rush on that because it's a thinking process, it's a creative process. So developing that takes a long time, right? So you have to also assess, like, am I a good writer or am I not? Does it take me a long time to talk about this thing? Does it not? So for what it's worth. You also need to have a post-purchase email. So when someone buys, what do they get? They should get an email there. So they develop that email. You also have to develop the emails to start the course. So if it's a module-based course, you're probably going to be sending out an email that says, like, the course has opened. Go check it out. And that's that first email that you would have to have ready for the course if you're running it. You also need to have, or you should have, an idea of what emails are going to be going out about the course. So if it's a Zoom call, are there Zoom links? Do you need to have any sort of sequence ready to go so that people will get emails on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever it is, right? So if it's a week-long program, they might get an email every day. So you need to have those emails all built out. You also need to have all of your emails for launch time built out. So I am going to be blatantly honest with you. There are people who do it successfully both ways. Some people plan out all of their launch emails, they schedule them out, and then launch week, they focus on social media only. So they create posts, they make posts, they write the post, they post the post, they engage on the posts, and their emails are going out automatically. Some people will have some of the copy done for the things and then finish the copy during sales week. Some people will plan out all of their social media and all of their emails, and all they simply have to do is put the social media post up. So put the graphic up or the video up, copy and paste the caption, post it, and then the emails are already done, so they're likely scheduled as well. So lots of different people do different things. People will choose to either prep both, one or the other. And in an ideal situation, you would prep both, at least have an idea of what's going on for both. So that way you can have an idea of where your head needs to be at for each day of the launch. And so you're not trying to create things as you're in the middle of a launch, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting to have to show up on social media for a week plus in the stories and whatnot while you're launching. So if you can plan ahead and have everything ready to go prior to launch time, then that is amazing. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. So that's all the emails for launch time. All right. So next thing on my list is social media for the launch. Just talked about that. So you can prep that ahead of time, know what you're going to post about, what the caption is going to be. So we're thinking caption, graphic or video, and then also know when you're going to post it. Okay. Then you need graphics for all of the things. So social media posts, the course itself, the sales page. You might need one for the emails, all of the photos and graphics. So that can also cause people wreak a lot of havoc. If you don't know me, you know that I have weird phrases that I'm just like, I think that's what it is. And then it's not that. And then people laugh at me. But anyway, so that can cause a lot of havoc as far as like having the graphics and having the videos and having the photos. So I recommend doing this ahead of time and making sure you have them, because once again, not having them is a pain, especially if you're trying to run a launch and if you don't want to have to create during that time, right? So I am the person who likes to at least have an idea of what I'm going to post, and then I go from there. So having the social media, having the graphics, super, super important. Now, your opt-in. So depending on how you're running a launch, you can also start a launch or start your marketing with an opt-in, like a free opt-in or a webinar or a low-ticket masterclass or whatever it may be. You also need to have all the details for that. So when you choose to add something that comes before the actual launch, like a freebie or a masterclass, you also need to have the sales page, the cart, the graphics, the emails, the product details, all the things for that thing. So just understand that if you don't have that, then you need to also add more time. If you have a freebie, if you haven't created the freebie, you have to create the freebie. So you have to now make the PDF or make the graphic, or whatever it may be for whatever they're getting as the freebie itself. So understanding that that also takes time. So let's talk about a timeline. Typically, I would tell people that if they're planning on launching something in September, they should be, if they're hiring someone, they should be contacting someone 3 months in advance for sure to make sure they have the time on their schedule, while also understanding that in order for someone to work for you and do this thing for you, you have to have the other steps done. So if you want someone to build a sales page for you, they can't work until you have the copy done, right? So understanding yourself and how long it takes you to develop copy, I will say that if it's your first time running something, you should be planning this 3 months in advance, because it allows a lot of room for error and allows you to have time to fix things. It allows you to not rush, and it allows you to finish your stuff before you have to hire someone, if you have to hire someone or if you're choosing to hire someone. And then it also allows for the oopsies, I can't fix this, I need to hire someone. So it allows you to have the time to actually hire someone if you end up needing someone to do something that you didn't think they'd need to do. So with all of that being said, I'm sure you can hear that list and you're like, holy smokes, that's a lot of stuff to need for a launch. Absolutely. And I'm not even going into the details of, if you have an FAQ list, you might have 8 or 10 FAQs. That's a lot of writing, right? So I'm really not even going into the writing aspect. I'm just telling you what you need to write about, and that takes time. So if you are able to prep all of this stuff, start 3 months prior, that would be my general recommendation. If you have to rush, just understand that it limits your ability to hire someone if they don't have the time. And it also does limit your creativity, because you can't spend as much time on certain things or go back to certain things once you are literally pressed for time, because you have to get it done. And while I'm the person who says, and the person who lives by like, it will always get done, it's just not comfortable. It's not comfortable to have to rush this stuff. And speaking for someone who works for a lot of people who launch things, the energy that you have when you prep things ahead of time and you can just refine instead of rush is much better. It's so much better when you're able to just refine things. And when you choose to wait and need to rush, it just bleeds over into your launch and you end up having less energy for the launch itself. So all the things we talked about today, I am going to run through that list one more time as far as things that you need, with the caveat being that all of those details are obviously in this episode that you just listened to. So we need to have our hosting taken care of. We need to have all of the product details for the actual product itself. We need to know, are we building out the course? Are we building out the webinar first? We need to know the actual details of the thing. We need to have all the details for the sales page, the post-purchase emails, all of the emails for the launch sequences, the emails for the course itself, the social media graphics, captions, etc. for the launch and potentially for an opt-in or masterclass if you choose to do that, the graphics for socials, the course itself, and the sales page. And I say graphics, I mean graphics and photos. And we also need any details, so hosting, product details, sales page, post-purchase emails, and emails for an opt-in or a masterclass if you choose to offer one of those prior to the actual launch itself or as a part of your launch strategy. So it's a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. That's why I recommend 3 months ahead of time. Once you run it once, The second one, you can obviously plan for a lot less time because you have a lot of those details taken care of. But for the first time, it's super important to start early so that you can refine instead of rush. So refine instead of rush. If you have questions about all the things I talked about here, please let me know. If you need help building a sales page, building out those emails, getting your sequences taken care of, I do this all the time for folks. I have written email sequences. I have written sales pages for people. I have built them, designed them, done all the things. I can definitely help you in this department. So if you are struggling to do this, and if you just want help for your first launch, and then you can do the rest yourself, let me know. Reach out to me via email, put in an inquiry form via the form that I'm going to link in here. Let me know. I'd love to help. And honestly, plan for a lot of time. It's always more comfortable in the long run. And I would never want you to jump into your launch with a frantic energy because you just had to rush through all the preparation of it. So for what it's worth, I'm rooting for you. I'm super excited to see all the folks who start to plan all of these things early and have time for other stuff and just feel better going into their launch. And like I said, if you have questions, you need help, all the things, I am here for you. So please just let me know. So I am so thankful that you listened to this episode, and I will catch you next time.